Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi.
Hi, Jonathan Byer. It's a little bit of an off week here. We are previewing the Grand Prix Final, wrapping up the regular season. By the way, I'll have everyone's fantasy things up. My real life was a little bit busy this week.
So, real life. How exciting.
Yeah, my real life. Not just my YouTube life, but
okay.
We're, December's a tough time in the corporate world. You always have to push everything to get it done right before Christmas, even though a week later you come back in January and the world is still standing. But
yeah, funny that. Yeah, yes. Okay. I've got a lot on my plate too because I take pictures of my Christmas ornaments. So
you're performing, and then you come back into the city at some point. So
yes,
yeah, you're.
We'll go skating. It'll be lovely.
I just want to let everyone know that Ty Babylonia sent us coloring books in the mail, and you could purchase this online. I'll have the website. Is
that a Bratz doll?
It looks like it's okay. So it's in the Bratz style, but it's not.
Okay.
I would
say very leggy.
So it's great, and the coloring book is a lot of fun. She autographs it, and if you buy it, she will autograph it for you. And she wrote like a little note in gold, right, for me. Yes.
Wait, where can I order it? Because I'll order one for my friends.
Yeah, oh, it's great. It's a great Christmas gift for anyone.
A great stocking stuffer.
And it's very like whimsical skating, and I'm in the middle of.
Very patriotic, Dave.
It's not patriotic. That's like
no, but she matches you also. Oh. Are you doing a Paris routine right now? You're wearing the same colors.
Well, this is really a magenta.
Oh,
see, I buy these like fancy markers. They're Prismacolor that I get, and they're about $4 a marker. But what's so funny is that when I get them at the store, they have to do the barcode on each one. So I always feel like such an a-hole because, of course, I go in wanting like each hue and like a little bit different. Yeah, and of course, there are like sets that you can get, but they're always like $600. And I'm like, I'm not spending that much. Meanwhile, I go 3 times and I probably spend the same amount of money on the markers. But
yeah, but you're spreading it out. You're being responsible.
Right. So my coloring's not as good as it was over the summer. I was coloring a ton, and then I took a little break and getting back into it, so I'm a little outside the lines.
Great.
It's good. You know, when we recharge from the skating public from being like, you're awful, it's great over those months to be
That's right.
doing
That's
that.
right.
And I
to
do my
reconnect
walking,
with love coloring. Yeah.
I've been doing my yoga, but getting a little bit back into coloring, which is a good activity. So let's discuss the news going on this week. There's something coming up with Russia where the IOC is going to make a decision on whether or not Russia is allowed to compete in the Olympics as more and more information comes out about the doping scandal. Quickly, I want to know your views. You actually watched the Icarus documentary. You read those articles, and I know that your perspective kind of changed after you watched.
So last year around this time, Dave, was when the McLaren report came out and all these sorts of things. We saw that Adelina's name was on a list along with some other skaters, and there were scratches on the bottles and all these things. And we were reading those articles, and the the new woman in charge of the Ministry of Sport came out and was like, yes, there was organized cheating. And then the next day they were like, oh, she was just joking and misunderstood what was happening. So that was just all in the context of the articles. Then when I watched this documentary that very closely follows that doctor in particular, it blew my mind, and it was really dark. Yeah. It washed over me in a really like dark way. I was unsure about it at first. So it's a Netflix original documentary. You've been telling me to watch it forever, and then I finally did. And so at first it follows an amateur cyclist who is like, I want to try a doping program, and you show me how to hide it, just for research sake. And then I was kind of like, okay, I guess this is interesting. I don't know. And then the minute they got rid of that and the news all broke about the McLaren report and all these other sorts of things, they really dove into all of it, how they did it, the plan, and it blew my mind. Just to think that also in any place, and I know this doesn't just happen in Russia alone, but that in any place, so much emphasis is given to the Olympics that especially you see now, like the way even the U.S. treats its skaters up for the Olympic team, like it's kind of a novelty, so many people, it means so much more. And it really enlightened those articles. And so now they're saying a possible compromise is to let them compete, but not let them wear the team uniforms or fly the flag or play the anthem. Mm-hmm. And then Russia released their designs for their new team wear and all this sort of stuff preemptively before that decision was made. Mm-hmm. It's coming up. Like, by the time we release this, I think it comes out the 5th.
The 5th, yeah. And Medvedev is going to speak there, so we'll have to see. She's wearing heels or something. She's had a foot fracture. I'm very curious with her whether or not she will actually wind up competing at the Nationals, or if they will rest her and allow her to compete at the Olympics. I mean, obviously I think she's going to be at the Olympics. I'm wondering if they're going to allow her to rest the Russian nationals to prepare for the Olympics, and the Europeans. I don't think that she needs to compete at the Nationals. I personally would feel much more comfortable if they just withdrew her from the Nationals, allow the foot to heal 100%, or as 85, as much as it can possibly heal, get ready for the Europeans, peak at the Olympic Games. I don't think that she needs to compete at the Nationals. I think we know...
Same with Hanyu. I just think, I know it must be so frustrating, like a racehorse stuck in the stable or something.
I do have a little bit of information on Hanyu. He didn't stay in Japan after injuring that ankle. He wound up going, I think, flew to Toronto on the Tuesday after that competition. So that's a little interesting that he flew right there. Obviously, he can get some medical attention there, but I believe he was back on the ice relatively quickly. I think he will be okay. That's one thing. Also,
in time for Japanese nationals.
I would think so, but at the same time with him, I feel that if you do have a sprain, take that time, heal the ankle. Talking to some people in skating, they say the mistake that everyone makes is always coming back too quickly from a sprain. And that you really...
It's so funny. In singing, I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, I have to wait a year. I've had a cold. I must wait a year before I sing again. But because I try to be so big picture about stuff like that, but they are so chomping at the bit. You know, the kid had a concussion and was like, I'm good. I'll finish the program. And you're like, oh my gosh, big picture. Just take a second. Yeah.
I'm sure Hanyu has pressure to compete at the Japanese Nationals, or at least make an appearance, do something. And I obviously they would never announce that he was withdrawing until right before. That way you get the interest and ratings and everything. And if he doesn't compete, that's such a disappointment for everyone in Japan. At the same time, I think you want to think about his health. The one thing why Hanyu would want to compete there is that he wouldn't really get another opportunity before the Olympic Games to compete. So that's about like a 5, 6, 7 week stretch somewhere in there.
Yeah, because this will inevitably be one of those strange 4 continents.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like this becomes one of those like strange ones.
But now that U.S. nationals are a little bit earlier, usually there's about like a 3-week spread for 4-week spread within there by the time the competition is done.
Right.
And it just winds up being a long period of time that he would have been out of competition. You know, athletes have a rhythm. You like to feel that pressure. You don't like to feel like, oh, I haven't competed in a while. This feels strange. So that's the only thing there. I think he'll be fine. I expect him to be at the Olympics. I'm sure that Hanyu has every person under the sun that is at his disposal to look at that ankle. There's resting on it.
He doesn't even have to go to Germany. Yeah, okay.
Well, let's talk about the German doctor. So the German doctor, I think it's very interesting that so many Russian Olympians visit this doctor who is in Germany. Now, I was talking to a couple of athletes who are European that have trained with Russians that have also know that many doctors, Usain Bolt goes to this doctor. But one of the drugs that this doctor prescribes is something called octavagan, which is an extract obtained from calf blood, and it enhances aerobic oxidation in mammals. So it's allowing the absorption of glucose and oxygen. And when you're out of competition, it's something that can be used. I think it needs healing. It certainly helps physical performance and stamina when you're in competition, but it becomes a little bit controversial. I think it's a little interesting that every Russian gymnast athlete goes to this doctor. That raises red flags for me. Doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just curious. You know, that everyone is going to the same doctor. That should be red flags. It's a Swiss company that uses octavagan, and it just is very curious.
Maybe we could be a TSL sponsor.
Yeah, I would love it. But it raises some questions. Why is everyone going to the same doctor?
Right.
But I don't think. First of all, I think that Russia will be allowed to compete at the Olympics. They may have to compete under a neutral flag.
Every victory so hollow. If suddenly you had a ladies' podium and you didn't have Zagitova or Medvedeva, there, the whole thing would feel a little...
Yeah.
Feel like a four continents.
So, first of all, I don't think that Russia should be the only country that's really looked at in terms of organized cheating. I know that they were looking at China at one point, but then we haven't heard much from that. I would definitely look at those. And it's hard to know. Drugs change over time. What's legal, what's not legal. Who knows what drug everyone's taking now.
Right.
I think the difference in the U.S. is that maybe perhaps athletes do take things, and there are always rumors, but I think the difference is that it's on an individual basis rather than on an organized basis. So it doesn't mean that Americans aren't cheating, perhaps, but there's not a organized
USFS isn't organizing all the distribution. The
USFS would be the last people that would be able to pull this off. So that
exactly.
If you knew who is running these organizations, I mean, respect that you're able to pull this off so organized. I thought, wow, in the USFS there would be committee calls, there would be dissension,
webinars.
It would really be something. But do you think it makes a difference if the Russian athletes compete under a neutral flag or they compete under the Russian flag? Because in 1992, they competed as the unified team when the Soviet Union split up, and they competed under a flag that was the 5 Olympic rings. And even though we knew it was...
anthem,
to me, that was still the Soviet Union. That was still Russia. It was still that country.
A product of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, to me, it seemed a little silly. It didn't really... I understand for political purposes why it was the unified team. But it didn't seem to make a difference. We obviously knew...
Well, that was more situational, right?
Yes.
Because then you also had Victor, who technically would have been under the Ukraine. Like things like that would have been slightly different. This, of course, is just like a jab at the ego.
Right.
And the ego so much, or the pride of that is so much of why they take such an investment in the Olympics. So I don't know. It would be a real slap in the face. I could see, if that being the only way they could compete, I could see Russia saying no.
So Russia was banned from figure skating for one season in the past for judging. This was back in the 70s. Things have changed. Ratings, money, things have changed. Power within the ISU. I don't think that would ever happen again. I think it's interesting to me. I think you look at someone that was actually... It's interesting because you try to wrap your head around how people should be punished, and Bobrova was...
And who should be punished.
And who should be punished,
who
right.
specifically, yeah.
Should it be a fine? Should it be something? I think at a certain point, the IOC doesn't want to look too deeply into this, because if you start investigating all cheating, is it going to be a situation where so many things are uncovered that it corrupts the entire process? And I think that is something that you really have to look at, is because there has been age falsification that kind of has gotten swept under the rug in a number of things. Anyone that has an "or" on their name on Wikipedia, I would give a side eye to. So many of the gymnasts, for years, there was systematic age falsification in so many countries. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not really the athlete's choice. These are different cultures. I know this is very debated.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't. It's just I don't know how to handle it. I think that they don't necessarily want to look too much into this. This could be a bad thing, because then you have to.
They're going to find something. Yeah,
it's interesting. I've watched a number of Lance Armstrong documentaries, and at the end of the day, he said, "I believe in 20 years that you will believe that I was the rightful winner of those Tour de France's." And I think on some level, he has a point that when so many top people are doing it, but. I think you can't be too naive about it, although the organization is certainly something that is...
Next level. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the athletes are really pawns in the entire situation. So that's...
And they're young. Christine Brennan was on CNN talking about this when other major athletes who were grown adults were dealing with these issues. It's very different than a young teenager who literally is a disciple of their coach.
Yeah.
You know, if the coach tells you, they're going to say yes. I don't know. It's hard at that particular age group in that position to blame the skater personally. It's tricky.
And I certainly don't think anyone is going to be banned from competing. I don't really foresee that happening on a wide level. And I also think that that's not really fair, because I think that if you're going to ban, you have to let people know in advance. Of course, in 1980, when the U.S. boycotted, there were some gymnasts who knew ahead of time and withdrew and kind of gave up because they had injuries of certain sort that they didn't want to push through. And then you had others whose coaches were telling them this is never going to happen, and then they seemed damaged forever by this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's a no-win situation. All right, so there's been some vague booking going on by...
I hate vague booking. It's one of my least favorite aspects of social media.
So Ashley said that she has big changes and big news coming up.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I think she's trying to hurt us in a way, because we've gotten so many messages about what this could possibly be. Don't know. Lots of speculation. People are saying, does this mean La La Land? This was all a plan for her to unveil a new program.
Right.
Or is this some sort of coaching situation?
Yeah, someone mentioned a coaching change. That seems less plausible to me.
She was still in Adam's Instagram story last night. That would be Saturday night.
And it'd be hard to stay at that rink if that was truly the case, you know.
I don't really foresee that coming. At a certain point, if you're an A-list athlete, you want an A-list coach with you at the boards. It doesn't look the same to have a B-list coach near you. I don't think it would benefit her politically to change coaches right before the Olympics. And I don't
or
think
even with the information. I can't imagine, you know.
So we've seen this in the past. Nastia did this in the past, where she had big news. It was big. It was going to be, and she actually vague booked about it for, it felt like weeks. It felt like years, and it wound up being a clothing line at JCPenney, and it was the biggest disappointment.
There's a pail of pennies. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was such a disappointment. I mean, maybe a new program. I think that would be a smart move, but I think even that, Ashley hasn't shown up completely trained at all this season. She hasn't been rotating triple loops. She's looked like she could be in better skating condition in terms of running through the programs. I tend to think that Ashley would do well to minimize the distractions, stay off of social media, and figure out that robber that keeps coming into her house. And
oh my goodness, what about that? I did make that joke where I was like, I need to hear Nicole Bobek's alibi.
So many people didn't even understand that joke.
I know. It was you know what? We were kids of the 90s that just followed that home invasion story like we couldn't believe.
Yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen with Ashley, but we don't know. She hasn't looked prepared yet. I think she does want to peak for the Olympics.
Of course. And at this age, I wonder her technique, like seeing also Carolina, seeing the different kind of strategies at this juncture. Are you going to burn out if you go too hard right now? Or if you do not go hard right now, will it be impossible to go hard later? I don't know. Only time will be able to tell us what worked for which person. I would assume it's different for everyone also.
So this is one of the things I wanted to bring up last week, and I know in the drama of the moment, I feel like a lot of this was lost. But Ashley is a professional athlete. And it's a little bit different now that everyone kind of is professional really when they're competing, and then there aren't like professional competitions. And everyone can tour and the like, and she's not just a show skater, but she really does derive her income and her visibility, is very important. I think Ashley has done a lot of commercial opportunities, kind of striking while the iron is hot. I would have to think that she may know that her individual chances at a medal aren't great, despite what she says. I think she's someone who knows that you kind of have to say that to the media in order to be focused on.
Yeah.
There is a right answer to give. She has to say that is what she's going for.
Because we even read those PR articles where Tim Delansky's going for Olympic gold and Pauline is going to win the Olympic. But I mean, what are they going to say? You know?
Have to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you want to be in that mindset to a degree. I think she's going for a team medal. But are they going to use her in the team event? I think that's a question too. Is that a wise strategy? We haven't seen her at her best yet, so I think it's kind of I'm withholding judgment until we see her at her best. I would determine that by the Nationals performance.
Yeah.
But I believe that, we did see, and one of the things I was trying to kind of think is that so she competed at Skate Canada, and she was not in her top form for Skate Canada, you could kind of tell. Typically, she peaks for the first Grand Prix event, comes down, and then tries to go back up for the final. She changed that a bit this season. I don't think she was peaked for either. She was not peaked. I don't think that they wanted to make the final. I think that they're trying to really coast and then peak for Nationals, the Olympics. I think what's interesting is that she kind of looked a little untrained at Skate Canada, pulled out a bronze. That was kind of a little bit of a lucky result because some people ahead of her.
But then the problem is when you see, like, around this time, we talk about the kind of coverage and commentary that is informed, and then some that are just more generic. And now everyone is like, bronze medalist on the Grand Prix. And it was like, okay, but if you really look at the scores and if you look at the situation, it doesn't mean she was as much a factor as perhaps another bronze medalist. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I think one of the interesting things is that after that Skate Canada, she came home. They then she went to New York because I think on the Tuesday or the Wednesday was the 100 days out from the Olympics. She skated on the Today Show. She then filmed with Andy Cohen. Then you think then you fly back. You're losing training days in here. You fly back to California. She was then filming several commercials, did several photo shoots that she was showing on her Instagram story. So I know we kind of tweeted a little bit like, how is she going to be ready and for Skate America? And that's what I was getting at when I think that that's what really harmed her when she had the ankle infection, because you can absorb a small problem when you've been very trained. The couple days off doesn't kill you as much as when you were banking on those 4 or 5 days to really get ready for the event. So
yeah, and it's a tricky position to be in because, like you say, if her goal is to maybe be on a part of a team that can get a team medal, I mean, if she doesn't scoop up every PR opportunity in the meantime, I mean, her big picture is past the Olympics, quite frankly, at this juncture for her own brand, which is just a matter of the times. This didn't happen before because other people knew that there were going to be more opportunities, not a 12-city tour of Stars on Ice that lasts one season and then it's done, In
the past, she could have gone pro after Boston Worlds and done shows, and they have to bank on this Olympic window. Obviously, she has to make the team, but she also has to do all the lead up before it in her brand.
All the exposure.
It's a little bit curious because it's very reminiscent of what happened to her 4 years ago when she kind of lost time due to all of the endorsements that she was doing, all of the commercial opportunities, the media opportunities, and it really hampered her training. And it does seem thus far that it has been hampering her already. But I think that she'll show up at Nationals ready to go. I think it was a huge wake-up call at Skate America when everything did happen. I do think it's funny that Brady Tennell, I was talking to some people and they just say, I just hope that they don't push Brady to be the national champion before she is ready. Because
like we were saying before, it's just so easy to just crown someone new because they did one great thing. And it's not to take anything away from Brady, but like, then let Brady be groomed and let Brady show her development. Like, why does it have to be like, and now all of our eggs are in the Brady basket?
Yeah. She also doesn't seem to be someone who maybe is ready for all of that attention, but I would say competitively she's done a pretty solid job. I think it was smart that they pulled Brady and Karen out of Zagreb, I believe. Yeah. Zagreb, because there's just no benefit to that.
Because they were all going for a second, and I thought it was perplexed. Like, I didn't know if they were just trying to pit everyone against each other before Nationals or something.
Karen has been doing so many competitions this season.
Well, she's got a lot of programs to work out.
Well, that's interesting because they train a lot of numbers at Tammy's rink, essentially. But if you notice, her combination technique never changes. The Lutz has always been a concern for me because there's the standard technique that you go long and you get distance on the first jump, pop the second one up. Yeah. She does the opposite. Never notice like she gets the huge height on the Lutz and then can't handle it.
And then thuds down, making it too difficult. Yeah.
And I know that the Orser camp has a whole technique with how they get the foot around to pull in a combo for the triple toe on, which she does not follow, but they haven't changed it, and she's had the same problem on the technique for so long. So
right.
She's training hard. Are they training smart? There's a difference there. But let's get into the final, because the ones who are going to be there, obviously not going to be there, Hanyu. We won't see Javier. And then we don't see Patrick Chan, who he's the big question mark. He's in Vancouver. Is he training there? Is he not? There are different stories. I would still suspect that he will be there for the team event. Who knows what Skate Canada will do with this, but they don't really have another option without him.
Right. Well, and it would just be... It's hard. I mean, he's older. He's been through the ringer. He's done all these things. Now, if he actually had shown up at NHK...
He could have won.
I mean, how could anyone have foreseen what was going to happen? But he might have done okay.
Yeah.
If he watered it down. He might have just been fine, because it was a technically watered down field. Mm-hmm. He definitely, I think, could have been right up there. But he seemed tired. He seemed burnt out. But I hope he rekindles that in sort of an obligation to his country and his teammates. It would be pretty icky for him to... I also think
obligation to yourself to finish this out on your own terms on the right way. I think that's too, that you don't want to look back 5 years later and say, oh, what could have been? Should I have just tried? I do think that the fact that people are really forced onto the Grand Prix and that there's fines and when skaters would withdraw from the Grand Prix, like Michelle and Sasha and Plashenko in the past, the ISU president would make a lot of negative comments about them. They certainly weren't getting political favors. It didn't feel like if they did pull out of competitions. So I think that's a thing. I was talking to a number of people that said, for the older athletes, when the only thing they really care about their last season is the Olympics, they're not focused on Skate Canada.
And they have to be smart.
Yeah.
They can't go full blast the whole time like other people can. Yeah.
And it is politically problematic because you do want to make the final. It certainly does not look good when you do not make the final. That doesn't help your chances. But if you compete and then you have to do the final, then that's a problem too if it throws off your peaking.
The interesting thing is when we really look back at Olympic years, the Grand Prix final, it doesn't predict like we think it may.
Yeah. Remember, Unikim did not compete at the Grand Prix final before Sochi. It didn't really seem to harm her too much. That's going to be debated in the comments now, but she was still a top 2 skater at those events. So she was not in 5th or 6th or something like that.
Right.
She was able to peak on her own terms for that Olympics. So that's interesting. Dennis Ten has never really made the final, and he won an Olympic medal. So I think you have to look at that certainly something for him. Evan Lysacek won the final, won the Olympics, and apparently the situation with Evan and Vera continues. So we had heard...
This is the most substantial proof we've ever had.
We have heard months back that he and Vera are married or exchanging of rings, and he posted that picture today.
The finger tattoo, I was like, I can't.
They are best friends.
And he did say #1 fan. It was still... There was like a noted... cryptic quality to it.
Now, she posted it on Vera Wang Gang, yet he runs that account as her social media manager. Again, there's some sort of symbiotic relationship going on. It's very curious and unique. It's been going on for a long time. I saw her at Stars on Ice the year after he won the Olympics. And first of all, I saw Vera Wang drinking beer out of a plastic cup, which was so strange because she had she had a sea of like 5 or 6 assistants that were all very fashion and like mean assistants around her. They were blocking her from the public, and she was losing her mind while he was skating, like standing up, screaming. And granted, he was probably one of the strongest performers on the tour and one of the only ones who was actually making an effort.
Right.
And he does have a power in person. I didn't feel like I was going to throw my top off for Evan Lysacek, though. That skate didn't have the same appeal to me.
It wasn't that quite...
It wasn't quite that exciting. It was Stars on Ice. It wasn't... I don't know. I haven't felt that way. But
it wasn't winning the Olympics. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't even like Jason's Riverdance moment where you would cheer. But Vera felt it that way in a big way.
She did.
She,
I mean, and it's suggestive. She designed him a nice phallic Olympic costume. Like,
I've never understood the snakes there, but yeah.
well, maybe now we do.
Right, right.
So.
Oh dear. So let's go into the final. Let's go into who's actually standing at this point. For the men, there's Nathan Chen, Shoma Uno, Mikhail Kolyada, Sergei Voronov, Adam Rippon, and Jason Brown, who replaces Jinbo Yang, who withdrew due to his ankle injury. If anyone else pulls out, it'll be Javier Fernandez as the first alternate and Misha Gui as the second. What are you looking forward to in the men's event there?
Well, so just on a program standpoint, I'll be excited because I think the best program of that group is Shoma's short. Mm-hmm. So I always like seeing that, so I look forward to seeing it. I want to see that Kolyada quad Lutz again. Because when it hits, it's so good. Voronov, I could do without. So, he'll, talk about a refrigerator break.
Yes.
But, I mean, as far as the American men, I feel like we always kind of thought this was going to be the team. I think this solidifies the team. And I think it's kind of clear how that order might also go.
It's a bit of a retirement team. We're not really promoting the new. There's no young ingenue on the team.
Right.
I'm curious, Adam, Jason, you have to give Jason the advantage in the components, at least in terms of skating skills, and he has that magical quality. Although Adam has had a real confidence this year, and that there's something X Factor-ish-y about that kind of a...
And it was interesting because, at the last Grand Prix final that he made, and it was pretty exciting, but although on paper it would appear that he was just there to skate for himself because just due to his content, he was probably going to end up sixth.
And he didn't skate particularly well in the Grand Prix final.
And then imploded. So in a way, I kind of thought, would that not be liberating for him to just be able to skate and not worry about it? But he really got in his head. So he's been so great with his mindset this season that I hope that continues and nothing changes for the Grand Prix. That will be important for me to see.
And there's been some competitiveness between the two of them. They've both been the boy without the consistent quad, the artistic skater, and they've kind of been competitive for that same spot. Do you think that this solidifies them for the Olympics? I don't think getting to the final actually solidifies them for the Olympics, I have to tell you. I think that if they skate well at the final, it's pretty much signed, sealed, delivered. That's going to be the Olympic team. I have to think, though, that if one or both of them shows up and isn't performing triple axels, it opens the door, I would say, for the nationals. I'm most excited to see really the matchup between Nathan and Shoma, because as we get closer to the Olympics, these are now two of the big four contenders, the big four being Nathan, Shoma, Hanyu, and Javier.
Right.
And I think that Nathan and Shoma both have the opportunity to really set themselves apart. Neither one has been consistently delivering all of their technical content. Nathan didn't peak until the final last year. I think Nathan needs to land some jumps here. I think he hasn't really hit his stride yet this season, although he is the number one qualifier. I don't think we've seen him at his best. I think we've seen glimpses of it in programs and in certain elements, but I think he needs to set the program content, start to deliver, and continue his growth performance-wise.
And this is what, when we were talking about, Law last time was like, well, it almost seems disrespectful to treat the Grand Prix events as test runs or experimental situations. I don't know. I think when you're eyeing an Olympic medal, you cannot take Skate America seriously. Skate America at that level for you is a test ground to try new things. I would like to think, though, that the Grand Prix Final is not a test run for things. I'd love to see what is. Unless
you're someone like Adam or Jason who wants to do the last shot at adding a quad in, that could be a strategic move. It's interesting because in dance and in the pairs, the Grand Prix doesn't seem like it's a test run. You need to be ready to go landing your elements.
It's the Olympic final for sure.
Yeah, every time out. In the ladies, it's because we have seen the content be rather set and that everyone is performing the same things. They're not necessarily dress rehearsals. They're more tests along the way. But with the men, where the quads come in and out, the program changes, the order changes, which the elements, there's so much shifting and peaking going on. It seems like you have to take them just event by event, have your plan for the season. Now, the ladies is interesting here because Medvedeva is not there, and there are wild conspiracy theories there, which I don't think we have any evidence that she's not injured. I do think, though, the fact that she's not there gives Alina Zagitova a wonderful opportunity to win, set herself up as one of the favorites for Olympic gold, and it does kind of guarantee that Eteri Tudorica will have the number one and the number two qualifier, number one and number two favorites for the Olympics.
The key here for her, obviously, I think is going to be that short.
Yes.
Because it would be, the fourth short in a row if she tumbles, and the more it happens, the more...
It gets in your head at that point.
Yeah, it becomes a thing when it's probably not even a thing for her, in training or anything.
In the wise words of Michelle Kwan, where she was sitting, I think, at the LA Art Gallery, bad performances are like a broken record. And you want to make that broken record a positive broken record, where she was talking. And remember at the 97 World, she was sitting there being very deep and thoughtful, talking about people that get knocked down and how you want it to be a positive.
She gets back up. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the tube of toothpaste again. I was like, yes!
Ooze all over the ice. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, the ice is also her canvas. Yes.
She's full of cliches. Yeah, okay.
Will Caitlin Osmond continue to win the Sasha Cohen Award? I think Caitlin Osmond needs to start to put free skate together.
It's time. It's time.
It's time. This is the time to do it. This is the one where way more pressure is on her than there will be at Canadian Nationals. And I think it's time to put a free skate together. And that'll kind of determine how she stacks up against Zagitova. That said, I don't see it happening. I think that there's going to be some more question marks. That it's going to take us. I think Caitlin will peak right at the Olympics and have us on the edge of her seat as a competitor. Just that's been her nature, but I think she will be in the mix there, and I think she will make a splash.
I know she's going to give me a heart attack, that girl. I'm going to have to be on legitimate meldonium when I watch her.
Yes. Will Costner win a medal? I think that's a big question. She's someone who, I honestly, as much as I love her skating, I didn't understand the comeback when she came back. She's done better than I thought. I think she's someone that could put off an Olympic medal. It seems like an outside shot. She has done well when others haven't. I anticipate that people will be very peaked for the Olympics. You don't know who's going to show up at any given day and really deliver. She's someone, though, that's in the mix. And I think a medal here would be a great accomplishment for her.
Now, both Japanese girls, of course, were not anticipated on being here, but because of circumstances are. Do we think that this is the team?
I would think that this is the Olympic team. At this point, I think that this is the team that the Federation wants. Okay. I am very curious about Satoko, though, and how are her jumps going to be clear? It seemed like the caller was a bit generous at Skate America, especially with her. That said, she is the most stunning skater, along with Carolina Costner.
And yes, they are smaller, but relative to her, I see her trying.
Are you with rose-colored glasses?
Yeah. I was like, shit. No, I just mean in general. Like, in general, I see her attempting to gain more speed.
Yes.
Things like this. Now, conversely, when I see Caitlin Osmond in person, her technique almost relies inappropriately on speed.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Or it shouldn't, but she's relying on the speed. Like, she was like hurling her body into the jumps, and it was funny to then see other people succeed at jumps with much less speed because it was about technique in the launch and in the position as much as it was thrusting into it as fast as they could.
Yeah, her position is a little bit suspect. She gets great power, which makes her so exciting, but then she can't control it. So you need to have the balance, the perfect marriage between the technique, the adrenaline, and the speed and the power.
Right.
Because the adrenaline, your timing is like this, and if you're someone that really feels it and you skate faster, everything can get shifted, and that's when you really.
And I feel like a lot of people who watch probably might have been at Skate America Live, so I'd be intrigued to hear about Sotoko's speed at Skate America. It looked from the camera, which of course we know is almost nonsense to try to figure it. It seemed like she was trying to go a bit faster. So I don't know. Let's see what happens.
That was in person in Boston. the thing that I noticed is that they all skated beautifully in that final group, except for Gracie. They all really delivered. And Satoko was stunning. The skating was smaller at that point in time.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I would have given her points. Look, there's always kind of a season long. You do well for the season, you don't reward someone a little bit for that. That's the whole point of reputation, and the whole point. I was talking to someone today, and he said one of the biggest problems with the judging system, though it allows shifting in some ways, even though the corruption and the judging politics are stronger than ever in some senses, but it can allow for different skaters to rise, whereas in the past, the repeat champions really did help the sport. And I think that in that situation, I certainly would have given Satoko. And it would have been a perfect podium. You would have had a Russian, a North American, and an Asian, and it would have been fair for all. That's kind of the ideal situation. Personally, I also responded to her skating at that event more than I responded to Pogorelaya, though Pogorelaya has bigger jumps. I thought artistically I would certainly give Satoko that merit.
But it will be interesting because now we have two Lori skaters, in my opinion, Satoko and
Costner,
or at least the Lori aesthetic, and Costner.
Oh, they're both Lori, for a different
lovely thing, and that'll be interesting to see how they go.
And they both are Lori skaters who keep Lori's choreography in.
They bring out the best of Lori, and they're true to the product, which makes it totally different than many other.
We're working on a special video for you in the coming weeks, but one of the things. Talking to Sandra, is she was saying that Chen Lu, in 1996, kept that kept that program exactly in place. There was maybe one or two moves she wanted to have Lulu hold longer that she maybe missed a couple
such as life.
Such as life within the live performance. But that program was kept intact. Every single little nuance. She did not take any of the transitions or any of the choreography out. So that's something. And Maria Satskova, your girl, she's shown up all season.
Well, hold on. Now, by saying my girl, I don't mean like I think she's like the winner.
Listen, Jonathan, you are a Satskova fan. You are on that train. The train that's
go get him, girl. Go get him.
Go, girl. Yes.
You know, I say this sometimes when people walk off the opera stage, like to just be funny. I'll say something like, I don't care what everyone else says. I think you're doing a really great job. And like, that's kind of it just has to be silly. You know what I mean? And it's that kind of thing with Maria. I'm like, I don't care what everybody says. I think you're great, Maria. Just, you do you.
Oh, dear. Well, in the pair event, we have Sui and Han, as the media likes to call them, Tarasova and Morozov, Savchenko and Masot, Duhamel and Radford, Stobova and Klimov, and Yu and Zhang. So Yu and Zhong. Sorry, I am curious for these finals. I think it would be important for Duhamel and Radford to medal. I certainly think that Sui and Han will want to win the event. But I think Tarasov and Morozov, are they going to land those jumps? Are they going to give us a good free skate, which they have really struggled with throughout their careers?
Obviously, it'll be interesting, like, in the elements, per se, to see the GOE of that German twist. Mm-hmm. The twist done by the German team, and the twist done by Tarasova and Morozov. Because they're both great, but I feel like so many answers for us politically will be in the GOEs and will be in the slight variances of PCS. These PCS are going to be very high in the pairs event for a lot of teams. And so it's going to really come down to splitting hairs in that PCS. And I think we're going to have all our answers.
Well, then we should judge the PCS for the pair event in the next video, Jonathan. I
think so. I really do. Whether or not they do it fairly is a totally different story, or whether or not they actually let them have variations among the categories. But I think it's going to be a really fascinating situation. For instance, I don't want Tarasova and Morozov to be getting the same kind of performance, choreography, and interpretation scores to that particular program as the Chinese team. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
And even Savchenko and Masad have much more nuanced choreography. And musical choreography. Obviously, the dance event is going to be quite
a bloodbath.
Yes, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Papadakis and Cizeron against Virtue and Moyer.
And we had heard rumors from Kurt Browning.
Kurt thought that one of the teams would withdraw. I asked someone connected to Kurt if that was going to be, if he knew something, but nothing came of that, and both teams are going to be there. I think both teams need to be there. I thought it would be a mistake on either of their parts to pull out.
Yeah, it would seem weak. It would seem weak for sure.
I think both teams are competitors. So now that being said, are there politics going on in every direction behind the scenes? Probably yes, and probably on both sides, although stronger on one side versus the other. As one, look, Didier is unabashed. He will get it done off the ice. What needs to get done. That means that Tess and Scott need to deliver the performance of their lives, which I think that they know.
Capable of,
And I think that they have a team that's been one to rise to the occasion. Most of the big moments in their career, they have skated very, very well, as well as they have all season at the big event. Marina trained her teams for that. And outside of Scott tripping last year, they certainly looked the strongest they ever did in the short dance at the end of the season. So,
I mean, the real story for me here are the Americans.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think we know, but I was hoping that Hubble and Donahue would, in order to solidify a national title and to surpass the Shibs, would have to beat them by a rather large margin here. Because I feel like even if they do beat them somehow, which the judges seem to, I know you can't compare blah, blah, blah from an event to event, but they've placed the Shibutanis in kind of this internationally third-ranked scoring situation. And if Hubble and Donahue somehow eke out a bronze over the Shibutanis, but only by a little bit, I could still see nationals going. They could still feel confident about giving the Shibs the national title.
I think that I would like to see them finish close. I think that would make things exciting. Chalk and Bates, will they pull out an upset? Will they, they could, look, teams have made mistakes. Zach Donahue and Madison Hubble fell last year at the big moment. This is why they're in the position they are in now. There were 4 free dances in a row last season where they had mistakes, and they are now trying to catch up and change their perception, and they've been very successful with that this season. Hopefully that this will continue on that rise, but they're not as competitive with the Shibutanis because they've had these mistakes, and they had areas of their skating to grow. But I think that more...
And the Shibutanis do, obviously they're 2 totally different aesthetics. I just happen to prefer one. But the Shibutanis skate clean.
Yeah.
They
deliver.
They deliver.
The skating may not be as big, it may not be as grand or as emotive, but they certainly deliver.
Get the job done, yeah.
And how will the Italians be scored? They're being the only...
I'm baffled by their scoring all season a little bit. And I don't, hate them because I like them so much as people, but I am a bit baffled by the boost they seem to be receiving.
I mean, there is a Europe boost when you are Europe's top team, although the French are from France, even though they trade in Canada.
Yeah.
In the past, there was the ISU boost. Look, this team, they've won the Worlds. They made it. And they made it over Bobrova and Soloviev. And there's rumblings that Soloviev is already searching for a new partner for after the Olympics. I mean, there's a lot of shifting already starting in dance. There's shifting about who wants to work with Brian Orser after the Olympics next year.
Now's the time.
Get ready. Get ready. Buckle your seatbelts because this is when...
Okay.
Now, on the junior level, I just want to point out it is 5 Russians and a girl with 2 triple axels from Japan
her Japanese nationals performance was insane because apparently I just love any skater who comes from Japan except for Rika Hongo.
Now, it's funny because Rika Kihira is from the same rink as Satoko and Marin Honda. Rika does appear to be that girl that just works hard, plugs away. She has made mistakes at the big moments. It does seem like that Mia Hamada is a little bit of a Bella Caroli and a Suzanne, where she uses the media to get things out. Because I had heard the same comment she made about Marin Honda has been made in the past, that she wants Marin Honda to work harder, right? Now, this is interesting because they also trained in Colorado over the summer. When they were in Colorado, everyone said that Marin Honda worked very hard, especially compared to the Americans, who I would say would work hard. But there's a different level of what is considered hard in Japan and Russia versus in the U.S. Someone described it to me as when an American skater lands a quad, there is a cheer, there is a celebration, there is a Facebook post. And when they do it in Japan, it's like, finally, that's what I needed to do. That was my job. Finally, let's do
10
it again.
more. Yeah, exactly.
And it's just kind of in that situation.
And I think when you're used to a work ethic like someone like Satoko, it's practically an unattainable goal.
Now we have the Holitary rink, I think, is going to be there, except for my favorite, who skates to Dreamcatcher, had the broken leg. So I'm very curious about that. But I want to see...
So, wait, now, you're going to have to brief me. Now, the girl who just landed the quad...
That's Trusova, and it wasn't fully rotated, but it was very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is in the Junior Grand Prix Final?
She's the #1 qualifier. And she was in the video with my favorite girl who does the, well, it was kind of an offensive Pocahontas program, something. No, it looks like Pocahontas, but she was actually skating to the Armenian genocide music that the Duchenets did. Problematic on so many, look, it's a Russia program. I'm not defending, apologizing. She's dressed like a Native American. They're skating to the missing music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then she also does the program Dreamcatcher that Tara did. It's a very nice program by Danny G. She is the most lovely to me from that rink, but she was not. She had landed quads. She landed the quad triple over the summer? Or yes. She and then broke her leg, is now back. She's done some of the Cup of Russia challengers. Remember, they're juniors, compete against the seniors, but we will be seeing her again in a couple of weeks. And
Danny G did get back to us about the coat.
The coat, yes.
It was a Dolce & Gabbana. And do you think he just shops at Dolce & Gabbana because it's his own initials? I think that's what's going on.
Look, he can do whatever he wants. I do like that we find out where the coat is from. We're getting it.
And by we, I mean Dave, obviously. Dave is on it.
There's something about Danny G. I'm a fan, okay?
For sure.
And he had crazy long hair when he was... I forgot who he was when he... Yeah, he was on the Junior Grand Prix.
Unrecognizable in a way, yeah.
And then he was an ice dancer and everything. But for the Junior men, there are going to be the 3 top men for the next 4 years, other than Nathan and Vincent, are going to be there with Alexei Korosnojan, Camden Pulkinen, and Andrew Torgashev. So it's certainly a redemption for Torgashev, who had a tough end of the season last year. Because Nojan has done very well at the Junior Grand Prix in the past, so this is currently, and Tom Z will be there at the final. And we will also get to see the dancers on the rise with Ponomarenko and Christina Carrera, as well as 4 Russian teams and a Canadian team. And as usual, the pairs are 4 Russian pairs, a Chinese pair, and an Australian pair. But they are half Russian with the Katerina Alexandrovskaya and Harley Windsor. So that is quite a matchup. We want to know, what are you looking forward to for the Grand Prix final? What should we entertain ourselves with? Maybe a little fake champagne, celebrate it, discuss. I feel like
fake champagne, get out of here.
Jonathan, yeah, I would like you bubbly, full on, but you don't want me speaking freely. Okay, that's a problem.
Fair enough. Okay.
To thine own self be true. All right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Are you Michelle and another fluff piece? Okay.
I am totally. I would know how to craft a fluff piece. If I were Shep Goldberg, I would know just how I'd want my skater presented. Okay. That's
amazing.
But also, things to watch out for, Jonathan. You need to watch, because if you know, in my real life, I get very sick of skating and need to mentally decompress. And I'm very into the strategy of gymnastics. You know, I'm a big Suzanne fan. Now, Suzanne's longtime assistant...
For those who don't know,
was Jay
Suzanne
Clark.
runs the program in Georgia.
Right. And she's now the volunteer coach. She's back with Courtney Kupets as the coach, although the word on the street is that Courtney is her puppet. And I will say that when I want to know how George is doing, I just text Suzanne and ask, and she could run down and give you like a level of detail that only Suzanne could give you. But Jay has Mary Lou Retton's daughter on the team, and she has a vlog. Jonathan, you need to watch McKenna Kelly and her sister Shayla Kelly's vlogs.
You're going to have to post it.
There's a lot of Mary Lou Retton. And what I love about these girls is that they post comments, and it's like things that Mary Lou maybe wouldn't want out there, but they post
a different approach, perhaps, than Mary Lou. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's event YouTube. You just need to watch it, enjoy it.
And while you're on YouTube and subscribing to the skating lesson, also there is a drag queen called Milk, who has a YouTube series called which is spelled UNHHHHHHH. I'm not so into drag queens, but I do find their brand of humor particularly hilarious. Mm-hmm. And only just did I realize that this very famous drag queen used to be an ice dancer, Dave. And did that whole segment that you posted with Ashley and Adam.
Yeah.
And was like actually doing some stuff. Double sow cow, fell on a single axle. But I was like, wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm. And also one of the designers from Heatherette, Richie Rich, was also an ice skater and trained with Christy Yamaguchi under Christy Ness back in the day. Oh, so there are skating connections all over. And Richie Rich will go to DragCon as a friend of RuPaul, and he is in that sphere, okay? Johnny Weir walked in Heatherette shows. I believe he had like light sticks on him at one point, so... Okay. Also, did you see Johnny skating to Santa Baby at the opening? Thong showing in the skin tight red outfit. It was a look, but
I did not see that.
The holidays came in early this year. Was
and you know what? I can't guarantee you I'm ever going to see that.
Well, I'm just telling you, it was there.
I probably will.
It was on social media, and it's in my mind. So we also have news. Deanna and Nate will be going back to Hallelujah. For their short program for the Nationals. So
great.
And we'll get to see Tara and Danny in Zagreb. So that's coming up. So we have their season debut. So with the Shaylin board
it's like investigation, right? Like I feel like every competition, it's like it is so funny how like everything's just merely discredited on its own and only a build up to the Olympics in this season. But it really is like
it's all about the O, baby. We saw Chris Knierim land a triple sal on Instagram
with his new boots.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. They didn't do one together, but they did jump separately, and we saw them. Mm-hmm. So that's the next thing we want to see. And then I would like to see 5 in a row, as you know, because everyone shows their best. But also we want to get those numbers in.
Yeah. Okay.
Get those numbers in. Well, as always, we want to remind you to hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.
You what? I tell people, what do I have in my teeth? Huh? I have stuff in my teeth. I told myself, note to self, never go on a date and order a kale salad. Stop, I see you over there. Huge. I don't know why they look so big in my camera.
That's
Stop
so wide.
pulling them like that.
So wide, Shayla. I don't like that camera.
No, it's not.
That's impossible.
I know, literally everyone I talk to says I look like Dad.
With Dad near you? Have they seen you and I together?
Yeah, they look at our family picture and they're like, you look like Dad.
This is so not true.
Everyone in the office, and they say that Skyla looks like you and McKenna looks like you.
McKenna's starting to look more like me.
Everyone says that McKenna and Skyla look like you, and me and Emma look like Dad.
Emma definitely is a Kelly, but I think you're way big.
I'm so Italian looking. I don't know why people don't think that. If you think I look like my mom, comment down below.
A smile, hair color,
face shape.
I don't know what my hair color is now.
Same.
You too.
The glasses from?
Prada.
Prada. What's your shirt from?
Splendid.
Splendid. And belt Hermes.
Yeah. Shut up, Shayla.
No, I know. It's outfit.
I work hard for the money.
No, it's an outfit of the day.
Look at
that's what it's called. have boobs. Come in, let's come back in the camera. Oh, look, see, we
I
are
love
twins.
it. I
I
haven't
haven't
taken it off.
Me neither. I get so many compliments on it too.
I do too. It's a little stone. I can't take it off because.
Do you have the chain?
Because.
You have the chain.
Uh-huh.
See, McKenna couldn't do the chain because it was too tight, and she would talk and it would flip out. The chain is so much better.
I don't take it off.